All right. So to repeat a little bit of what I was saying in class here, because I didn't have the recording going, we didn't have an official due date posted on the Annuity web program, but I think it might have been mentioned in the lecture last week. In any event, the March 7th, Tuesday, March 7th will be the due date for that one. And we've just started to look at web credit card, which will be the stand-in for the midterm. I'll do a couple of pieces of it, get it started, and then do the Ajax part of it. But after that, you'll be on your own to complete the work, and we'll move on to something more fun. But I'm going to download the specification for the credit card simulator, and I've got a couple of zip files with some goodies in it to get us started, so I'm going to download those two items as well. Card trans will be the business object. No, card trans is the web page, I guess. Credit card is the business object that we'll be using. All right. Now, the spec, which is not in that folder, it's in this folder, looks like this. It reminds you of the Form app version, the GUI version that we did if you had Java 1 or 2 or both with me. But it's a simulator for a credit card which lets you create an account or reopen an account, and then we post charges and payments, and we can ask for a credit increase, and we can also charge ourselves interest. And every time we make a transaction, we add to a log that's kept internally, and so display log is one of the options, and the bottom three entries simply display the current status of the account that's been opened, and the little log and status values are kept in text files, so we can open multiple accounts and then reopen them. So that's what's going on in general, and when we move it into the web world, it'll look something like this, pretty much the same, and this is what I think I have a starter project for you. But one of the additional items that we're going to add is the ability to display history, not as a separate pop-up the way we've done in the desktop version. When you ask for a display history, you got a pop-up dialog that showed the history. But in this case, we're going to use Ajax technology so that when they select display history, we're actually going to see that log history at the bottom of the main page. Is that it? Oh, thought there was a question already in the back. All right. We are not going to use JSP tags the way we did in Annuity Web. Excuse me. That was just for legacy purposes. But we'll use JSPs in the expression language and JSTL to do the work that we need to do. So if you will load NetBeans, we'll build a project and add a servlet and some pieces, the pieces that I left for you, and I'll show you how it's put together. So a new project, web application. That is the correct folder for me, but we're going to call it Web Credit Card. And I like the Tomcat, Java EE7, Web Credit Card is the context path. That looks good. We don't need any frameworks, so we'll finish. And we've got just the usual suspects in our project set. So I think we're ready. If we go ahead and create some source packages for business and servlets, so a new package, business, and then another new source package, right-click, new package for servlets. And I think we have now what we need to fill in from the downloaded materials. Stop me if I'm rolling along too quickly or something doesn't make sense. So if I go out to my download area in the creditcard.zip, if you click in, there's just one object, one Java class file. So I'm going to copy, right-click and copy, and go out to Web Credit Card and drill down into the source, Java Business. So in the business package, I will paste creditcard.java, and NetBeans has seen it now, and that'll be our that's just a version of the credit card class that we built in the previous Java 1 and 2 sections. And then I'm going to go back, and inside cardtrans.zip, I've got the JSP, the primary JSP page. So I'm going to right-click that, copy it, and that will go into Web Credit Card Web. And when you find the folder that has the index.html in it, you can right-click and paste it in there, as it will take over from index.html. All right, I think that's all the goodies I have. We'll start taking a look at them. Yeah, that's quite all right. I will pause to let you finish up there. So let's take a look at CardTrans, and I'll show you what I've got. And there is a little JavaScript doing a very simple operation for us. Right now, there's no expression language code or anything else in the page. So although it's a JSP, there's really no JSP related code here. But it does have the form elements, and it also has a hidden field. So in the bottom of the form, there's a hidden field called action type. And action type is going to be the field that tells the servlet what the user was trying to do. In other words, what they should look for. So what happens is that a button, when one of those buttons is pressed on the form, such as the button for the new account, it causes a JavaScript event to fire. So on click of the button, it calls the page action JavaScript code that's up above and sends it a word. And that's the word that's going to go in the hidden action type field. So up here, function page action receives the word and puts that word into the action type hidden field and then submits the form. And you'll notice that the form submission is just account action. So we're still going to have a servlet intercept this action, but the servlet is going to have to examine action type to know what the user was actually trying to do. All right. So let's go ahead and make that account action servlet, and we'll get rolling on that part. So right-click in your servlets package and go for a new servlet. So this is account action servlet. Yeah, account action servlet. And when we go next, it's going to say, do you want to create the web XML descriptor file and add the information, which we do. And I always remove the servlet name from the URL action pattern. That's because of the way the form was written, but also you don't want to let on to the user in your web page that you're actually calling a servlet. That might lead to an exploit of some sort or other. Okay, so we're going to finish, and when we've done that, we should have a web XML, and at the beginning of our servlet, I'm going to take out the usual commented areas so I have a little bit more space on the screen. And as usual, we don't need the direct output to the response object, so I'm going to take the out print lines out of my servlet. That's legacy style, which we don't want to continue with. And I also can put now in my web XML file, I can put the welcome file list, and I'm just going to go up to Annuity Web from last time and open up my web XML from Annuity Web. Oh, did I not put it in Annuity Web? Oh, gosh. I don't have it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's in the middle. Sorry. Welcome file list, welcome file. So I'm just going to grab those lines of code so I don't have to type all those XML tags. So Control-C from Annuity Web XML down to Web Credit Card XML and add in the welcome file list there. But of course the file name is cardtrans.jsp, and we can now safely remove index.html. So I'll right click on that and delete. So we have the framework in place. And we're ready to go to our servlet and to see if we can have the servlet recognize the action. And first thing, of course, is if the action is new, then we'll let our cardtrans, or creditcard.java class rather, build a new account for us. The one difference, or well, I guess there are many differences, but a key difference here in the web version is that we have to determine a proper place for the location of the text files. So in the Java 2 and Java 1 versions of the simulator, we just let the text files exist in the default directory, which was actually the folder, the project folder. So in a web environment, we want to put those text files somewhere that's considered safe so that they can't be hacked into, and that will be inside the web INF folder. So let's go to the servlet and get some things ready. We are going to have an object that once we create it, it's going to be a session object because they're going to be going really back to the same page all the time. They're going to enter some data, ask for an action, and then the same cardtrans page will be refreshed after the action is processed. So we're going to have a credit card object, which I'm just going to call card. And once you declare that, you're going to have to do the import for business.creditcard. So click that, That's interesting. Did I misspell it? It does not seem to recognize that it wants that it should add create the class. Huh. Well, let's try importing it. I think I might have something amiss here. Credit card. Let's try an import for business dot. Oh, yep. You know what? This happened to me last time. We copied the code in. I didn't fix the code. So if you go up to the creditcard.java, where we copied that code in, it's not. The package is not identified. So there's actually an error in the class as loaded. So we have to now specify package business for credit card, and let's clean and build here. So now credit card knows that it's in the business package, and if we go back to our servlet, I think it may now have figured out, yes, so there is a business.creditcard, which is interesting because even though creditcard.java was physically placed inside the business folder, because the package wasn't identified, the system did not recognize it as a part of the business folder. Okay, so now we can import business.creditcard, and it's happy. We're going to have our next location. Whoops, I got off my screen there. So the string for where we're headed next will normally be card trans. We just go back and forth between servlet and JSP to make things happen. So the default URL is card trans, although there will be a display page for the log as well, so that'll happen. And I guess we'll have a string MSG for message that can be an empty string at the start. And here is the first, or here's the variable that we need for that text file issue. So I'm going to create a string called path, and I'm going to use the servlet context. So we can do, and that's a built-in object for the servlets. So we can do a get servlet context, and from that method we can ask for the real path. In other words, when it's running on the server, the web.inf folder might be in a number of different locations depending on the web server that's running it. So we're going to do a get real path, and what we want the path for is the web.inf folder. Now, in some web servers, and it used to be true of the Tomcat, I don't know if it's still true, but I'm going to just be safe. To make this work, we actually had to add double backslashes, and I don't know why, but the context or the path using the get real path wouldn't work properly without double backslashes added to it. That's not true of all servers. Another interesting thing that we discovered in a different Java class is that, or did I talk about this last time? If you're getting the context of a text file, such as the student grades class list text file, the Glassfish web server returned a null result if class list did not yet exist. And the Tomcat was perfectly happy to give you the correct context path. So there are some peculiarities that you need to watch based on the web server that you're actually using. Okay, now the action that the user has issued comes from the action type hidden value, hidden form element. So we're going to pull action, string action, in the way you would normally pull a value from the submitted form data. So that's on the request object. So request get parameter, and the parameter is action type, spelled out in all lowercase. So that should represent the actual button that was chosen that caused the submit via, and action type has the wording that the JavaScript routine or method put in it. And so we're going to inquire, but before we inquire whether or what the action was, we should also try to pull any existing account. So if there was a card that's already active and stored on the session, we need to see if that's the case, because they may be asking to perform an action against an existing account. So I'm going to go ahead now and set my credit card object that I declared above, and you have to do a cast, and we're going to look on the session. So we're going to do a request get session. So there's our pointer to the session object, and then we're going to get attribute, and the attribute is card, and I have to know that that's what I'm going to call it when I put it on the session. So I haven't done that yet, but it just makes it a little easier to work with the next set of code entries. So we look for the card on the session, which indicates an active account, and that goes into card. But it might come back null. There might be no attribute called card on the session. So if card is null and they didn't ask for a new account, or they didn't ask to reopen an existing account, if all of those things are true, then we can't do anything. They've asked for an action on the form that isn't allowed until we have a working live account. So I'm going to say not action equals ignore case for new, and action is not on an equals ignore case existing. Those are the keywords that the JavaScript function will put into the hidden field. So if the card isn't on the session and they didn't ask for a new or existing activity, then we have to tell them, sorry, no account active. And we'll go ahead and put the break line in the break HTML code in our message so it does what it needs to. Otherwise, okay, so now we think that whatever it is they asked for, we can do. So inside this else clause of the if block, we're going to look for all the possibilities, and we're going to let the creditcard.java class do what it needs to based on the values that we can pull from the form. But of course, the first possibility is that they actually asked for a new account. So as an if inside the else, I'm going to say if action equals ignore case is in fact new, request for a new account, then I'll put a little comment in, open new account. Then all I should have to do, because the credit card, we haven't really examined the creditcard.java, and I know some of you haven't seen it yet, but the card can be instantiated as a new credit card, but we do need now to send the path variable to the credit card class so that it knows where to output that account, those two text files that go with each account. And if it comes back, or after it comes back, we need to examine the error status. So if card get error status is true, I just have a little method already built in, then message plus equal, I don't know if we need the plus equals, but I'll go ahead and do it that way. Open error, and we'll add card.getErrorMessage to our error information. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and have my message, as we'll see, the creditcard.java object has a little messaging system inside it. So it has either an action message or an error message that said, hey, this worked, or this is what I did, or this is what went wrong. So we can do a message that'll be our display message as just card.getActionMessage. So that'll be, and then we'll add the break key. Okay. And this is the end of the new operation. Everybody okay on that so far? So now we need to update CardTrans a little bit. No, we need to update credit card a little bit. I didn't print out credit card. I'm in trouble. I have to do this on my own. Okay. Creditcard.java. Let's go over to the constructor. Oh no, we're actually okay, because this version of credit card does take a path variable in the primary constructor. Okay, so maybe I misspoke. So let's just walk through it. Some of you have seen it, some of you have not. So the credit card constructor, when it receives a path, constructor for new account number, is going to randomly assign, using the math.random function, an account number, and then try to open the status file for that account. The status file's named CC plus the account number, and then .txt. So it will actually add the path and then that file, and it's hoping, in this case, to fail, because if it's able to open CC for that account number, then it wasn't a new account, and it has to set account number back to 0 and the while loop continues. But if we do throw an exception on a new account, then that's actually what we want. We set the credit limit as $1,000 to start, and we update the status file, and if that's fine, then we'll update the log with that information that we've opened the new account. So pardon? Yeah. That's right. So that would be the status file for an existing account. So random number, try to open the account, because it's theoretically possible that the random function returns an account that already exists. No, right, if it doesn't find the file, it's going to throw an exception, and that's really what we want. That's what we hope. So we hope that then we're in the catch, and that's really the desired result. If we do find the file, then we just close it and reset the account number to 0, so the while loop tries again. Yeah. Okay, so maybe I gave you a version of credit card that we don't have to modify. Let me just take a quick look down below, because when it comes time, well, here's the constructor for the overloaded open an existing account. It's going to send you an account number and the path, which will end up being the WebINF real path. And it's going to try to open the account, and this time we hope to succeed. If we catch any exceptions along the way, then we failed to reopen an existing account. So that looks good to me. I want to see, though, down at the bottom when we return, when they ask for a credit card history, do we return it as a list or a container object? So yes. So public array list of strings for get credit history. This will be the log, so it goes through and reads the log. But path. So did I set the path? So path becomes a global for the account. And let me see if we set the path up above in the constructor. Yes, so in the constructor for a new account, I do set path that comes in, and for the constructor on an existing account, I do the same. So path, the global path variable will contain the real path to the folder, the safe folder for the WebINF area to hold the status files. Okay, so I think this credit card.java that I gave you should be usable without modification. That's what I'm seeing right now. Has private methods for updating the status files using the path, the global path variable. So that looks good. And get error status just returns whether or not the error message is empty and so forth. Okay, so I think we're in good shape on that one. Let's see if we can't get this to work now, because we do have the ability to create a new account, we think. And if I look back at my servlet notes, if we have, no, the servlet is going to be okay, except I also want to show you the use of cookies here. So let's go down to after the if block. So this is the end of the if-else process. So after we go through and have our credit card object do whatever it is it's supposed to do, we're going to put the card, so this will be the, we're just going to basically refresh, or perhaps for the first time, reestablish the card as an attribute of the session. So we can do a request. Oh, you know, let's see. Maybe I don't want to do that here. Yeah, I think I'll actually do it inside the else block. So if we come down to an else, because if the card came back null, then we don't want to put a null card on the session. So inside the else, but after all of the sub-if blocks, we'll do the following. We'll say, okay, we did something to the card. So we'll do a request, get session, and I'm now doing this in one line instead of two. The first time we did it in the Annuity Web, we did we created a session object, and then we set an attribute on the session, but you can do it all in one step. So request, get session, set attribute, and the attribute will be called card, and it will be the card object that's in the servlet. And now I'm going to get us started or set up for this notion of a cookie. So a cookie is a name-value pair. It's actually managed by the browser, but we have to attach it to the response object that is going back. So the servlet has the response object, and we can, in our servlet, create a cookie, and the cookie that I'm going to create is the last account number that was used by, or the last account number associated with the card. And that is just for the purposes of if they close the app and reopen it, we're going to show them the last account number that they had open. They still have to open existing, but anyway, we'll show it to them. Okay, so we can create a cookie account as a new cookie. So there's an object class called cookie that we'll import for. And we're going to have the cookie called ACCT, and we are going to create it as a string version of the account number. So we're going to do string value of, and the value is card.getAccountID. So there's a getAccountID which returns an integer. We want that account ID put on the cookie as a string. It's a name value pair, but its string is better for our purposes. And so cookie, this class, is an import from the Java Servlet HTTP package. So it imports cookie, and that allows us to create a cookie. You want to set a few parameters on the cookie. So account has a set max age. How long does the cookie live? And I shouldn't have thrown away my IntelliSense there. So set max age sets the maximum age in seconds for this cookie. Positive value indicates that the cookie will expire after that many seconds. A negative value means that the cookie is not stored persistently and will be deleted when the web browser exits. So that there are ways to manage cookies when the browser, or manage these kinds of values if the browser has cookies turned off. But we'll assume for the time being that cookies are present or available in the browser. Okay, so max age in seconds. Right now I'm going to do 60 times 2, so it's just going to be 2 minutes that the cookie lives. And then we're going to set the cookie's path. So we do a set path to indicate, relatively speaking, when is this cookie available in the application. And so we're going to put a slash there to indicate that the cookie is always available. We need it right at the start of the page, because we really only have one page anyway. Okay, and once you've done that, the sort of the minimum necessary to assign your cookie, you put it on the response object. So we can do a response, our built-in response object, and it has add cookie, and we add the account cookie. Okay, so that's the last thing we do inside the else when we've had a successful operation of some kind, even though right now the only operation we can execute is the new, and you'll write all the rest of them. So down after the card and the cookie have been set, we'll do a request set attribute for message, so MSG and the MSG variable. So that only has to live through the request cycle, the postback cycle for request. And then we'll get our dispatcher and we'll be on our way. So request dispatcher. Disp is another servlet context. So we get servlet context and get request dispatcher. Not named dispatcher, but request dispatcher. And it's the URL string that it uses there. We do have to have an import for the request dispatcher. And then we will forward to our JSP page the request and the response objects, one of which now has a cookie on it if something real happened inside our servlet. Yes, I will be happy to pause. We've got a lot of code that we've been adding at this point, so I'll pause and let everyone get caught up. So now we need to go back to CardTrans JSP and put in some values, since it's now possible that we have a card object on the session which has been instantiated as a new account. So let's see, under the text for the input field for account, I am going to add a value. I'm going to do it on a second line because this is going to get long eventually, but for now I'm going to add a value which says expression language, so $ curly braces, and we'll do card dot account ID. So right now we're going to print the account ID. So that's a call to the get card trans account or get credit card.java's account ID, so get account ID. And I think, let me double check, I think that the D of ID is lowercase in my get method. Yeah, so credit card.java has I capitalized but D lowercase. So in the JSP, that's our value for the account field. We don't need values anywhere in the input boxes. Those are just live through the servlet process, but the account ID obviously has to continue. But what we do need is down below in the subtable where we've got bank balance and credit limit and credit balance, due and available credit. Oh, that's a mistake. Bank balance. There's no, I forgot to update. Let me double check. Right, so I used to have this project as an inheritance project as well, so that there was something more besides the credit card. You had a bank account. If it was a debit account, you had a bank associated with it, but I took that out. So I'm sorry, I have a mistake in my cardtrans.jsp. In the subtable where you're seeing bank balance, we don't need that. So you can simply remove that row. So from the TR, including the TDs, just delete it out. The only three fields we need on the bottom of the form are credit limit, and that value will come from the cards get credit or credit limit. So $ expression language card dot credit limit. So get credit limit. But you know what? I think I lied. I think there is something I wanted to change on creditcard.java. So let me double check this. So if we're getting the credit limit from creditcard.java, it returns the raw double for the credit limit, not a formatted value. So let's add a method. Do I have a currency formatter in my class? Yes, so I have F as my number formatter for currency instance. So I'm going to modify my class a little bit here. Down under the get credit limit, I'm going to leave that in case the class is needed to be used by something else. But I'm also going to have a public string get credit limit F for formatted. And that's going to return the F format of C limit, which is the credit limit internally. And we'll do the same thing for the outstanding balance, which is right above it. I don't know why it's above, but we'll have a public string get outstanding bal F that returns the F format of CBAL, current balance due, credit limit, and then we'll do the same thing for the available credit. So down here, one more public string get available CRF formatted, so we'll return the F.format of C limit minus CBAL. So yeah. These are just return methods that give you currency formatted strings. So, and that's, the expression language will be much happier with those than with the numerics. Okay, so outstanding BAL F, credit limit F, and available credit F, available CRF. Everybody okay on those additional methods, or do I need to wait a minute? Okay. Back to our card trans JSP. So credit limit is now card.creditLimitF. Balance due is expression language call inside the value for card dot, what did we just say? We said outstanding BAL F, I believe. So outstanding BAL F, and available credit inside the value clause is card.get available CRF, the formatted version of available credit. My account action servlet still thinks that there's an error parsing the file. Let me clean and build and see if that goes away. Oh, yes, okay. Thought for a minute it said finished building and it didn't go away, but then it did. All right. So right now, I've set you up with an application that should be able to produce a new account and display the values, the starting values of that account. So let's go ahead and run it. Oh, you know what? No, I want to write some more code. I want to show you the cookies. So after the form element, let's keep adding to our card trans page. First of all, we don't have message displayed, so we want to show, using the expression language call, we'll show the MSG variable and put a break after that. That's odd. Why did it do that? I don't know why why the editor decided that needed to be over a ways, but there you go. Okay, and now we're going to have a display of the cookies. And the thing about the cookies is that they are a postback cycle behind. So after you open an account and process, the cookie is sent back on the response object, but it's processed by the browser when it comes back, and it won't be read as a cookie until the next cycle through. So here's what we can do. We'll just use the, well, you know, there's a way to do this with the expression language. I'll just use the scriptlet. So we'll use the traditional style scriptlet tags, and we will have an array. So inside a JSP, you can call for an array of cookies which is received from the, and this is a little odd, although because you put it on the response object, it's a request dot get cookies. So this will, when it builds, in other words, when it builds the page, remember that this is happening on the server. And so we want to see what are the cookies that the browser already knew about and sent over on the request object. So that's why we're a cycle behind, because the servlet has put on the response object the cookie that'll be processed. But we're going to look at all the cookies that the browser already knows about from on its request object. So we can do this with a for each, but we need to make sure that if cookies, that collection, that array of cookie objects is not null, so after you looked at the request object, as long as it's not null, we can say, all right, for each cookie C in the cookies array, we're going to do something. Now, but what that is we're going to do has to happen outside of the scriptlet tag. So we're running into that, the reason that expression language and JSTL and all that other stuff was built in the first place. We've got a for loop that starts here and continues. Oh, I need to take that curly brace out because the for loop is inside the if block. So you have an if curly brace, but then inside the if you have a for each, the new style for. So for every cookie inside cookies, we'll have an object C, but we need to put as outside of the scriptlet a scriptlet expression to C.getName. So the cookie has a name, and we'll say that it also then has a value which we want to display. So we'll use the expression scriptlet, and that will be getValue. And then we'll put a break at the end of that line. And now we're ready to close the if and the for. So there's the close for the for, end of for. And there is the close of the if. And finally close our scriptlet block. Okay, so our page, when it comes up, every time it's processed, even the first time when it's processed by the server as a result of the application being requested, it'll tell us what cookies are known by the browser. Did when the browser asked for web credit card, did it send any cookies along? And we'll show them out. We'll show them on the bottom of the screen. But we know that if they process a new account or do any process that is against a live account, we'll be sending that account ID back as a new cookie for the browser to store on the system. Okay, now I think we're finally ready to test our little application here. So I'm going to run this one. Oh, not yet? Okay. So with all of our code in place, we'll see if we can create a new account and have it show the values. I'm going to set my credit card as the main project here and run it. See how many typos I've made along the way. Tomcat's up. Well, the form came up. Notice no cookies were found. Nothing came in from the request object yet. We will ask for a new account. And so this is important. We've got an account number showing and the starting values for the credit limit, balance due, and available credit. We got our message that the account 697175 was created. And you'll note that after the post-back cycle, or when the page came in the second time with the new request, there is a session ID. So there's your session ID, which is what we attach all of the data to that we want to persist throughout their session. I also managed to spell credit increase incorrectly on my form. I should fix that on the button. But let's try a new account. Remember whatever your random number was. So if we go for a new account again, now here's my new account, but what the browser knew about when it posted the new request is that, yeah, I have an account ID of this. But now that we've gone through a postback cycle for new account, the account ID has been updated on the browser side to 168.022, and we can keep showing that by clicking new all the time. And so it's one cycle behind because of the way we checked it, but that's fine. So I want to show you a neat little trick that the expression language can do. I don't think we've done this before in any of the apps, but I want the account ID to show the last account per the cookie, unless, of course, we're using a live, they've done a new or open existing, and we've got a live card, a live account that we're already processing. Then I don't want the cookie to get in my way. So here's what I can do. Back in my value clause for the account ID display. This is going to get much longer. So here I'm going to move it out to the left a little bit. The expression language actually has an if, essentially, in it. We can ask, I've lost my notes, it's empty, but let me make sure I'm in the right, there it is. If empty card.account ID, so the syntax is the keyword empty, and then the method that you're calling to see if it's empty, could also be null, will suffice. Then, if that's true, I want cookie.account.value. So there's your expression language way of getting to the cookie. You just use the keyword cookie, the name of the cookie that was posted, and then the value. So it's a get value call. And so a colon, or we want card.account ID to be the displayed value if it wasn't empty. So if empty, question mark, put the cookie in there. Otherwise, put the current card account number in that value clause. And there, again, this happens on the server, so it's being built. The server knows about the cookies. Empty is the keyword. Empty is the operator. Yeah. And there are some other things you can do with the expression language, which we will get to in time, I think. Now, I think it's probably been 2 minutes, so my cookie's probably gone, but I can show, and I also want to do this in a new session. I don't want the same session. Well, let's see, does that matter? No, I guess it does. I guess this won't matter. Okay, so we will run the program, and the first time it came up, there were no cookies left. So I'm going to go new account, session ID, and I got the account number, so all looks fine. But I should have that cookie for 2 minutes that goes with this account number. So I'm going to close the app. So mine's 189.780. I'm going to close the app and rerun it immediately. And there it is, 189.780. That was the cookie that it found on the system. And if I ask for a new cookie, 872.100, and I close the program and rerun it, there's the cookie that it posted the last time it went through a postback cycle. I can't really assure you that if we do something else, the proper account is coming up, but you'll get to see that when you start putting in some of the other processes. Yeah. Right. So my line 68 roughly is the outstanding balance. Yeah. Didn't recognize the method. Well, go back to creditcard.java. Make sure that you added outstanding bal f as a string return of the format. You might also have to refresh the app. So you might after you load it, you might run the refresh button. Oh, the other thing I wanted to check is out on my system in the WebINF folder. Sorry, under the build WebINF folder, do I have accounts? And there they all are. So it's been putting the CC and CCL accounts files out in WebINF. It's under the build, and of course that'll be cleared out if you do a clean in build. But that's where the data has been going. Okay, that's all we have time for right now. So next week will be the miracle of Ajax, but you can already get going on this app with all the other functions, because the only thing I'm going to add next week is this display history using Ajax technology, so that we can just pop it up on the bottom of the same form rather than having a new form come up. And that'll be the last thing I do for the app. Everything else, the charges, the payments, the credit increase, that was misspelled on my sample too, interest charges, all of that, open existing account, that'll all be you to finish out in terms of what the servlet does. All right, and if you have troubles on your apps, we'll come take a look, but that is it for the lecture part.